Hi everyone, I hope you are all well and keeping warm in this really cold weather that we've got at the moment. Of course, this is nothing compared to what's happening over the pond with the polar vortex thing that's happening. But yeah, stay safe, everybody. It's absolutely freezing at the moment here in southwest England, but the snow has gone because we had real bad snow the other day. But yeah, it's all melted away now, so that's good news for me, which means because it means I can go to the theatre and cinema today, which is fantastic. But anyway, that's not what I'm here to talk about. I am here to talk about the book that I've been reading for the past couple of weeks, and that is Queen Anne, The Politics of Passion by Anne Somerset. Now, I got this from the library a couple of weeks ago after I saw The Favourite in the cinema, which I absolutely loved. It was so good. The acting was superb. I really, really, really hope that, as well as Olivia Colman getting a lot of acknowledgement in awards and everything for her portrayal of Queen Anne, which was fantastic. I really want Rachel Weisz to get awards and praise as well, because she was absolutely sensational playing Sarah, the favourite. Well, one of the favourites is what the film covers. So yeah, so after I saw the film, I went straight to the library and found that he had a copy of this book. I'd not read any of Anne Somerset's books before, and really sadly, even though I love history, I didn't really know much about Queen Anne. She's one of the queens who we have forgotten about, which is so sad. And so I wanted to learn more about her, and thanks to this book, I now do. So Anne was queen before the Four Georges. So it's early 1700s, her reign, and she reigned for about 20 years in total, because she had, maybe about 15, because she had about maybe about 5 to 7 years before we became the UK, and then I think probably, about 7 or 8 afterwards. So let's say around 15 years that she ruled. And she did some absolutely extraordinary things for our country, dealt with some various wars that were going on, united the very countries and everything, dealt with the union with Scotland was a big deal, and she handled all of that. Yet she went through such tragedies. I was absolutely flabbergasted by this woman. Before she became queen, when she was about 35, she had suffered 17 deaths of children. Some of them were stillborn, some were miscarriages, and others lived within the range of minutes to 11 years max. And there was a horrific time where in the space of about 9 days, she lost 3 of her children. And when I read that, I actually had to stop and put my book down and try and take that in, because I was in such awe of this woman that she was able to carry on and deal with all of this stuff. Now, of course, she had severe health issues, and you can say that she dealt with it badly. All the horrors that she went through in her life, that's very fair to say, but she was so ill as well. The psychology of this woman is extraordinary, but I don't see her as this crying, sick woman. I see her as strength and dignity and a grace that I can't think of in a way that I can't think of any other monarch as having, for me personally. So I was blown away by Anne. I think she was absolutely extraordinary, and it's so bizarre to think of that, 200 years before, Queen Elizabeth I, she very much, when she was raised, was brought up with an education that she could be just as equal as a man and everything. But when it got round to Anne, she had very little education at all, because at that time Women didn't get that, and she wasn't meant to be queen either. She had two brothers who both died, and her father married again and had a child. She very much fought for her place on the throne, and too rightly. She did absolutely phenomenal stuff. She was a woman, like I said, she was constantly ill since childhood. She went through serious horrors. She had very little education, yet she was the most successful Stuart monarch ever. She dealt with so much crap, it is unreal, and she managed to be able to get the throne. That she when she needed to fight, she fought. She was so strong and yet so weak at the same time, as I said, physically with her body and everything. It's just the psychology behind this woman is extraordinary, and I enjoyed every single second of reading this wonderful book. And one of her quotes is on the back, which is so powerful. Here she is with her son who lived to be 11 years old, William, and sadly, he passed away. That's him when he's probably about 5 or 6. And it says, "Why, for God's sake, must I, who have no interest, no end, no thoughts but for the good of my country, be made so miserable as to be brought into the power of one set of men? And why may I not be trusted, since I mean nothing but what is equally for the good of all my subjects?" It's, my God, this woman. This is a real powerhouse, this book. Anne Somerset, as I said, had not read any of her works before, so I didn't know what to expect. And the fact that she ends the first page with a quote by Samuel Pepys. So this is the end of the first page. I'll read the whole paragraph. "The child was named Anne," so it's her birth, "after her mother, and if her birth was a disappointment, at least it did not cause the sort of furore that had greeted the appearance in the world of the Duke and Duchess of York's firstborn in 1660. That baby had initially been assumed to have been born out of wedlock, but when it emerged that the infant's parents had in fact secretly married just before the child's birth, there was fury that the Duke of York had matched himself with a loose woman who was not of royal blood. Many people shared the view expressed by the diarist Samuel Pepys, that he that doth get a wench with child and marries her afterward, it is as if a man should shit in his hat and then clap his upon his head." As soon as I read that, I was giggling away. I was like, "Oh, Anne Somerset, not Queen Anne, but Anne Somerset, I think we're going to get along really well with this in this read." And I loved it. She tells the story of Anne with such precision, grace, dignity, charm, yet she really likes wit and such. And there's a couple of pages that I was in shock at, where it's talking about how in later life, after she'd had her 17 children die and her husband die, and never married again. And in later years, it was speculated that she was a lesbian. And her favourites, Sarah, who in the film The Favourites, played by Rachel Weisz, and Sarah's cousin Abigail, played by Emma Stone, were very, very close to her, and the two of them were vying for the favourite spot, which Sarah had when Abigail arrived, but then as time went on, it was given to Abigail, and it was believed that they were her lovers as well. And there's this great section where she talks about a ballad that's been written. So the thing about Sarah was that she was so strong, so focused. She was a powerhouse that Anne wasn't, so Anne could easily be manipulated by Sarah. Sarah had to say jump and Anne said how high, kind of thing. So, and when Sarah was involved in all the politics that was going on, she arranged meetings, she made sure certain speeches were written, all that jazz, right? So she's really in control. And at one point, Anne did something that she was not aware of, and she got really angry. And this is what happens. So the Duchess of Marlborough, that's Sarah, was maddened to learn that Anne had given Havisham a hearing, and her temper grew wilder still when she discovered that after seeing the Queen, he'd had a discussion with Abigail. Her fury clouded her judgment and led her to commit an irreparable error. Back in April, Arthur Mainwaring had remarked to her that it should be easy to undermine the Queen's affection for Abigail, as an inclination that is shameful soon wears itself away. A good ridicule has often gone a good way in doing a business. In the intervening weeks, Mainwaring had busied himself producing material that could be used for this purpose, and which he had printed and put in circulation. One of these works was a ballad set to the tune of Lillibullero. I have absolutely no idea how that goes, that tune. A song that had stirred up feelings against James II at the time of the Glorious Revolution. Comprising with more than 30 verses, Mainwaring's ballad vilified that proud, ungrateful bitch Abigail, and condemned her intrigues with Harley, here deemed Machiavel, more damagingly. It also suggested that there was something unnatural about the Queen's infatuation with her slut of the state. The opening verses are as follows. When as Queen Anne of great renown, Great Britain's sceptre swayed, beside the church she dearly loved, a dirty chambermaid. Oh, Abigail, that was her name, she starched and stitched full well, but how she pierced this royal heart no mortal man can tell. However, for sweet service done and causes of great weight, her royal mistress made her a minister of the state. Her secretary she was not, because she could not write, but had the conduct and the care of some dark deeds at night. I read that and I was like, oh my God, the shade. And I think that it's things like that which makes us so fascinated with history. Because if I was thinking about think about it, like Hamilton tells a story around this sort of time in America, set to hip hop, bringing modern day with old. Then you have films like Marie Antoinette with Kirsten Dunst, directed by Sofia Coppola, which I like, where it takes the story of Marie Antoinette in France, again around that time, and brings a modern soundtrack to it. And then you have things like this that show how catty, how bitchy, how backstabbing that the world of that kind of time was in court, and how modern it feels. And I adore Anne for writing her book like this. It's so full of shade, of grace, of intellect, of power, of sadness, and of joy. And at the end, I really felt that with Anne, she was a tragic figure. We can't deny that because of all the sorrow that she went through. But my God, the strength of that woman. Because even the thought of losing, I don't have any children or anything. Even the thought of losing one child, I could not imagine, and I'm sure it would absolutely destroy me, to lose 17. How she was able to function day to day, I have no idea. And it kind of feels like when she died, I felt happy for her because I didn't see it as a defeat or anything. I just saw it as she's going to be with her children now. And so I can't think of her with sadness. I think of her now as one of the strongest women there has ever been in history. And okay, she made some mistakes along the way. Everyone makes mistakes along the way, but my God, she was a powerhouse. And it's so sad that we, as a nation, have kind of forgotten about her, and we really shouldn't forget about her. And thanks to films like The Favourite and such that bring these stories back to the forefront, and show that our society really hasn't changed that much. It's a great thing. So I want to thank Queen Anne for everything that she did for us throughout her life. for everything that she went through so that we could have a better life and everything. Thank you, Anne. And thank you, Anne Somerset, for writing such a beautiful, beautiful book with a portrait of a woman whose life truly was about passion above all things. So thank you, Anne. Well, that's all I can think of to say about Queen Anne and this book. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Entirely up to you, I'll let you decide. And I'll be back to announce which book I'm going to be reading next. And excitingly, I'm going to be announcing more than one book, because I had them all lined up in my head, the next 4 books I want to read, and I thought, what the heck, I'm going to announce them all in one video. So I'll be back shortly to announce which books I'm going to be reading next. All right, guys, bye.